Hello, everybody! My name is Peter Yang, and welcome back to a new episode of the Pebbled Path. We are, of course, here with Lane Davis, the wonderful host. Would you give us yourself an intro, my friend?
Watch out for the content deluge. We are up to 50% more episodes than we were last month. But congratulations to us, and welcome back to the show, everybody.
Fantastic. We are also welcomed here with another guest, my brother, Patrick Yang.
Hey, how's it going, guys? Wait a minute, 50%?
50%.
That's a great increase, guys. That's a huge increase.
It's fantastic. We're super excited to
Congratulations.
have another episode come out. It's been a while, and I think Lane brought up
Oh
a
my
good
gosh,
point.
in celebration of having 50% more content, we now have 50% more people on the show.
Yes,
I am 50%.
An additional 50% people. But yeah, no, like we've been pushing really hard for this Final Strike content, and then Lane came up and it was like, dude, Peter, I miss doing these little podcast chats with you, and I agree because we've been going really hard on trying to get this game made out. Which, of course, if you haven't been following Final Strike, you can check out our game found. And I'm actually gonna pull it up right now. Final Strike by Game Found. We are at what is it? We're at like a momentous number, 172. We are almost at 200
nice.
followers, which is
Nice.
the big go button was what people recommended we have before we went live with our Game Found campaign.
No way. And we still have months to go. This is fantastic.
Exactly.
Thank you, Peter. Always be closing Yang for the shill there. But yeah, like you were saying, like you were saying, like when you're working on a project together, sometimes you have like 4 or 5 difficult conversations in a row, and we were both like, I don't know about you, but definitely sometimes like, oh, this is more difficult than I want it to be. But then we
Yes.
were talking about video games and stuff we've been playing lately, and all of a sudden the conversation sort of melted and became way more fun. So we decided we wanted to do more of this stuff, and I'm really looking forward to our topics tonight.
Oh yes, today's topics are perfect segue, by the way, into today's topics. We've kind of like settled on 2 different ideas, which one being like the discussion point of what games do certain types of games need to exist, and Lane's topic of do games need roguelike mechanics, and they kind of mesh well together because Patrick and I have had the pleasure of working on Conquest Princess, which is a game whose like sole mechanic is fashion is power, and that's very different. It's like, is this a game that needs to exist? Does Powerpuff Girls in space need to exist? And we're just like, not really,
Yes.
but it does. It
does.
This is a game that is like arduously hard to play, and it's fully cooperative, so it should appeal to a wide array of players. But the problem with that is that when you make a game that's so far out there, it definitely alienates a crowd. And that's kind of just like it's kind of the launching point. As you know, with the Pebbled Path podcast that we do, we just have this topic that goes to the launching point, and then we just basically just ramble on until we're done for about an hour or so.
Okay, but there's a place I want to
kinda-
start right here based on what you just said, which is that, okay, so like debatably, if we assume that a game existing is a good thing, then wouldn't a game that is more different from all the other games that have existed up until that point be more essential to exist because it is satisfying some need that people can't get elsewhere?
And that's a good point.
Yeah.
It's like Pokemon Arceus. Pokemon Arceus is definitely a side game. Like it's a very unique game, but it definitely paved the way for the success of Pokemon and Scarlet and Violet. Like they tested the tried and true open world Pokemon game that everyone has been like wanting for, but Arceus didn't quite nail it on the head. But that's like outside the norm. And I feel like that, even though Arceus wasn't as good as well received as any of the other games, any of the main Pokemon series games, I feel like it needed to exist so it could pave the way for Scarlet and Violet.
Yes, as they say, I don't know the real saying, but what is it? Things are built off of the shoulders of others. I don't know. There's a catchphrase that's that. I don't know the exact phrase, but I think, like Peter said, like, yeah, I mean, there are plenty of other games that do open worlds, but not necessarily with that Pokemon spin. And I think the perfect example, another good example of this is dancing games. Like, for example, DDR didn't need to exist.
This is
now
true.
that's such a big arcade thing. Now we have Pump It Up,
Yes.
and then we have actual dancing games, and like the Xbox, dance games as well, like with the full body motion.
Just
Be
Move was
tracking,
an
like,
incredible
it's-
series.
It's ridiculous, and I think that kind of started off with just like, oh, just an arcade thing, an arcade culture of, this is what this is. It's a dancing game, music game, and then now you have a whole subgenre of, using your hands and using your feet, and it's just kind of like, I think it does supplement to that niche, and I think once they see a crowd that goes to that niche, then you keep building on that and building on that, and
Yeah.
you create that little culture of that. So
Now we're getting into a couple examples already, and what I would love, just so I can follow your guys' examples more, is Peter, you are the one who brought up the idea of like, do certain games need to exist? What does that mean to you?
Oh, okay. Let's talk about daddy dating simulator.
Oh my gosh.
okay, now you're getting to the real topic.
Yeah, like, does daddy dating simulator need to exist? Is that a game that we actually needed?
What does
Oh
that
my
mean?
goodness.
Oh,
But what does it
What does it
mean,
mean?
Peter? What does it
okay.
mean?
So let's
First of all, I'm asking you first.
define.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
It needs to exist, right?
Yeah, so Daddy Dating Simulator absolutely needs to exist. It's a fantastic game. But okay, so it's like the phrasing doesn't need to exist is like, did somebody actually need to spend the time and like the effort to make a thing? It's like art. Does art need to exist? It's like the same phrasing.
Mm-hmm.
And the short answer is like yes, but the reason we're bringing up this topic is that like certain games are like, I don't know, like just today, and to rag on what you were going to bring up, Lane, about the games they really likes. Our friend Seppi from Final Box showed Patrick and me this morning yet another indie roguelike title. What was it called?
Hell yeah, baby!
Alina of the Arena. Yes.
Alina of the Arena.
Yeah, Alina of the Arena. Phenomenal looking
Alright.
game. It's basically
Alright.
gladiatorial combat, slay the spire aesthetics mechanics, and then like actual like a cool little audience system in which if you do cool combos and defeat strong enemies and so forth, the audience will throw weapons and goodies at you, or if you're doing bad, they throw rocks at you. Which you in turn as a player can move around like this actual gladiatorial arena, move positionally, do attack and so on. So it's like that's like pretty good.
Oh, hex based, turn based. Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But does Alina of the Arena actually need to exist? Do we need?
Well, I would say that none of these things need to exist. Games as a whole, they don't need to exist. There's no law of the universe that will require that someone makes games. Like what does this mean? What does this mean?
You know what? Lane that sounds like a hot take, but I
That's a
agree
hot
with
take.
you.
You know,
It doesn't really need to
strong.
exist.
It's
We
strong.
don't need games.
Like on one level, like aren't games just like as a whole, like wouldn't it be better for people if games just didn't exist at all? Like aren't they just a huge waste of time?
No, this is the discussion of what people talked about art, like initially, like what is it? STEM. STEM was a long time. It was always about science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, right? And art was such a big passed over. Like no one cared about art. It was not important, so on and so forth. But eventually, the world, or like the United States specifically, recognized that the arts matters, which is why they called STEM into STEAM eventually. And that was the important part, is that like people recognize that being creative and having the aspect of arts is a very important aspect of like someone's creativity. If you don't like appreciate the arts, like did Michelangelo's statue or the Sistine Chapel, did those need to exist? No,
Obviously not. Obviously not.
But the world
the thing
is better for it.
I agree with Peter. The world is better for it, but Lane, I don't think we are ready to be, sentient alien beings who let the robots do everything. Because I believe, like you said, if we didn't have player games and focus all our energy into, let's say, technology and whatnot, I think that's where we become. Like we build Skynet. Like we spend all our energy, all our
Oh,
effort,
God.
no play, only solely to just work on things. And technology, I feel like technology would increase, which it is increasing, with the adventures of
Oh, this is
invention
a
of,
big brain take. So
Yeah.
that so like technological advancement of people is
Yes.
so dangerous that you need friction on human production, and
Yes.
that friction is called video games.
Right. And I'm not ready for that. I want
damn.
to play. I want fun. I
Damn.
want to dive into that. But I feel like
Yep.
eventually, if we focus 100% on technology and the rise of being efficient,
Well,
I don't know how that's gonna look for all of us.
I don't know. People could focus on other things other than just developing technology. Anyway, okay, so now I think I understand better that I think that like just framing this for myself, like there's games that can like sort of push outwards, push the boundary of the artistic what the medium has accomplished by doing something new artistically, and then there's other games that are like, I'm gonna be Call of Duty, I'm gonna be Slay the Spire, but like 5% better. And so which of those do you folks think is more necessary to exist? The incremental improvement upon the king, or the like thing that's just a bold new direction out there?
I'm all for bold new direction, because having worked QA at Activision, like, we do not need another Call of Duty. Like, it's fine. It's a perfectly serviceable game. Everyone enjoys the new version of XYZ of that game's iteration. Fine. But that's a game that is like not trying to iterate on something new. It's trying to like re-deliver on the experience, like a Pokemon game or a Legend of Zelda game, which is always trying to re-deliver the same experience in a slightly different twist.
No, you can go on, Pete. Yeah.
Oh no, I'm just gonna like throw out Mario Odyssey, because like Mario Odyssey, phenomenal game, but it's strictly at its core still Mario. It's not the same as like Mario Galaxy. Mario Galaxy is also a really strong contender, but everyone moved off of that very quickly once Mario Odyssey came out.
Would you say that, like, for example, would you say that Mario 64 is a more like essential game in some ways because it was so like innovative?
Yes,
like sort of like redefined what games could be.
See, like Mario 64 was a much needed game, whereas like Goemon 64, which I don't know if you remember.
Oh, it's so good.
That's a great game, but that Goemon 64 did not need to exist for me.
True, but I enjoyed it. Yes.
Yeah, I agree. It was a great game, but it does not need to. Did Glover need to exist?
Ooh.
Oh man, that's a tough question.
Yeah, and that's like the short answer is like no, Glover didn't need to exist. It's great. Like I remember like so many like mediocre titles like Sub-Zero, like Mortal Kombat Sub-Zero, like the whole Sub-Zero full. You were strictly Sub-Zero full arc story in Mortal Kombat.
This is a good question, because now I'm kind of like getting conflicted, because I'm thinking of it as at another topic is like new IPs versus old IPs and same gameplay, because I'm not sure if I think I mentioned to Peter about it, and one of my issues was that all the games are very the same and they use the same IPs, which means they recycle the same like kind of gameplay for that. Zelda, it's a great game, but you walk around open worlds or new ideas, and you kind of like defeat Ganon all the time. Pokemon, you catch Pokemon, they add the open world to it, but still Pokemon at heart. But then for me personally, I don't think I've seen any new IPs, and if it's a new IP, like a new character, let's say, like that's where they can branch off, and like this game is, this is a cat, but it climbs walls and it could travel through dimensions, like that's a weird idea. But back in the day with Mario, they had to have, push IPs like Sonic versus Mario, like that. When Sonic came out, it was a brand new thing, and like it was like that was a new IP, and now it's all about going fast, and that's their their niche. But I feel like it's kind of hard to branch out new ideas if you don't have like a character or whatnot, like that branding, I guess, to kind of follow up on that.
Now, I'm not going to disagree with you at all. I just want to ask though, is it possible that if you are looking at what the big companies are doing, then you'll see, oh man, they're just sort of doing the same thing, because large companies they have enough money to own the IPs, and the IPs are the most profitable thing, so they'll keep doing what's safe for like either shareholders if they have any, or for the board if they have one. But like basically, like the larger the company, the more likely they are to like do a remake or a sequel. Whereas like if you're willing to look at like smaller studios and indies, those folks are like pumping out new IPs all the time.
Yeah, like
right.
Oh, I would love to see Subnautica too. Like just like I don't know if you played Subnautica, but
You mean like go to the Steam store and download Subnautica 2?
No. Look, is Subnautica 2
Wait.
out there? Is that real?
Okay. You know
Ugh.
what? It's called Subnautica Below Zero.
Oh, that's an expansion. That's not Subnautica 2.
Okay.
I want
Okay.
like, well, you're talking about like a fresh new IP, right?
Yeah.
So I was like,
Yeah.
would Subnautica rather just make another expansion?
I'm not calling Subnautica 2 a new IP. Maybe I'm misunderstanding what you're saying.
Okay, yeah. That's my thought. It's like, would that company make Subnautica 2, or would they just make another game that's completely different?
I mean, like it depends. Like sometimes indie studios do hop from thing to thing. Like Supergiant never does a sequel,
Yeah.
whereas like Red Hook makes a so far really bad sequel to Darkest Dungeon.
Oh
no, Darkest Dungeon.
That's fine.
Tragedy.
They tried. They're trying.
I still like that game.
Yeah.
I like
But
a lot of
try.
things about it. I feel like all they need to do is add better trinkets to the game. But yeah, swing and a miss so far.
Well, the second time, like,
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. Let me wrap something out about roguelike mechanics, because as Cindy was
Ooh.
showing me
Yeah.
Alina
Mhm.
in the arena, I looked at this game and I was like, oh, it looks exactly like Slay the Spire, and I was kind of disappointed to find out that it was deeply roguelike, because it was like, oh, there's yet another indie roguelike, and at this point we're needing to make a new Steam category called indie roguelikes, because there is so many of that genre. I would have loved to see Alina and Arena be a fully fleshed out story of somebody like running through this like arena style based combat, like a full RPG, if you will. And I think that would have maybe told a better story versus what that roguelike would have been, right? As what it is right now.
Mhm.
That interesting. I can't say that one is better than the other. I agree with you. It would be great to have it be a Steam category for sure. I mean, when we get over into the dedicated roguelike topic, if there are hard topic delineations, then I'm happy to like put up some resistance on that point. But I do think that that yeah, like it being a category so they're like easier to find would be fantastic. I was going to ask you folks on the topic of games that need to exist. You folks have both worked on a bunch of games, so have I. Have you found yourself ever working on a game that you think needs to exist? And what was
Yes.
that experience like?
Oh, go ahead, Patrick.
Yes. I make music. I play the piano, so I want to make a board game about piano and music. And so
Oh,
I guess
yeah.
I've been doing my research, and of course, I guess when you dabble into video games or art or whatever, you have to kind of look around and kind of like either get inspired or kind of see what's out there first to kind of say, oh no, like what am I currently doing that is similar, or what am I doing that's like totally off brand? And I guess for me, I'm trying to make a music game where you place actual notes on a music sheet, and the goal is you could take a picture of your game and you could play the music sheet. Like the players are gonna be placing notes and creating this 8-bar of music. And I'm like, I just want that to exist. And honestly, for me, regardless of the game mechanics and whatnot, I just want this to exist personally, because I want that story to play out for every player to be like, oh, I could take this picture and then I could, have someone play it for me, and you could play the music. And so the game experiences, at the end of the day, you will have a little music tidbit for you for the game that you played. And for the reason why.
Have you tried playing the sheet music of the creations that people make in that game?
No, I haven't play tested yet, but I already know like this is gonna be wacky and funny. But there might be some beautiful, gems in there. And I think for me, honestly, like to answer your question, does this need to exist? No, but personally, it needs to exist for me, because I actually would love to play it and then be like, hey, send me the picture of the game. I'll play it for you personally. And I'll just have this kind of community like, yeah, I could play the music, and they can do that as well. And but it's just purely for the art, the passion, and just honestly, does it need to exist? No, but I'm going to will it to it somehow.
I'm gonna will it into existence. Yeah, no, I to double down on that, I'm helping Patrick work on this game, and I'm coming to the conclusion like how gamery does this game need to be?
Right.
Does this game need to have action drafting or set collection, or does this game need to have roguelike elements as a board game.
Let's go.
To make it
Let's
so that
go.
you can fulfill that experience of like having a sheet music at the end. Like, and the short answer is like, no, this game needs to be like very simple, easy, fun, and then you have this cool thing at the end of it. And I think that's the goal of the game. And
Right. Yeah.
and I think that's a perfectly fine standpoint. But of course, to make this game like a bigger success, you want it to be fun and engaging, all those other things. So like, to the extent of like how much does that need to exist is like up to the creator, and then that's Patrick.
Right. I think Peter brought a good point. Like for me as a creator, like I do want this, like I said, regardless of how good the game is or not, I want it to be good, but I still want that last, the end goal to be the thing where, you know, you have a set of music sheet. But then as a creator, I'm thinking like, okay, I want it to be fun. I want it to make sense. I want it to be in theme, you know, and not to be a wacky, you know, a weird wacky music game. But it can be, but I kind of still want to be whole truth to what a music sheet would look like and things like that, and have the elements of, you know, following the rules of notes and I guess, and whatnot. But how deep do I want to be that way, though?
Yeah. I have a question for you, Lane. In this case, so in this game, like when playing a piano, so Lane, do you play an instrument?
I have a little bit, teeny tiny bit of piano and brass in like high school.
Perfect. Okay, so you know, like on a bar, there are 7 different areas to play notes. Correct? You have
technically 12.
Yeah, but like exactly. See, so we're like, how many areas do we allow players to play notes? So like, that's already like the very first thing we'd ask. We're like, do we really need 7? Are we introducing both the bass clef and a treble clef for players to play on? Like, right. What do we do? Like, what are we actually looking to let players build into, or play their action, or like sing notes, if you will?
Right. And like, does the game need to have 88 notes, like a full piano? Like, does it need that? Would that be fun?
My God.
You know, like, you know, does that need to exist? You know, right? Like that's a good point. But
Jesus.
I love
like,
it. Yeah. Unfold the game board, and it just has like 4 folds.
Yeah. Yes. Do we give? And this is a 4-player game, so do you give 4 players 88 notes to play?
Oh, it was so good.
No way. They got to play on the same board, right? Each person places a finger.
Yeah, exactly. Anyways,
geez.
Yeah, this is.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah, and that's like, see, that's a funny dexterity version of the game, but like Patrick wants to make this like action drafty, engine buildery kind of stuff, and so like that's like.
I want to throw some roguelike too. I'm throwing some roguelike in there for you, Lane.
Yeah, but that's like that's the part of the game. Like, how much of what needs to exist for it to be a fun or good game?
Yeah, 100%. Like yeah, it sounds like you games that need to exist sort of go in with some sort of artistic push from the artist, from the creator, and then you sort of like hit like like the reality of what people can understand and process and sit through at the table. Like I would definitely say I won't dwell on this too long because we've certainly have talked about this a lot elsewhere. But Final Strike is 100% a game that is sort of like is like that, where it was taking a mechanic that had existed for like 1,000 years and just forcing the issue until it finally started working about like 1 year or a year and a half ago.
Yeah, and this is a tough question. Like, does Final Strike need to exist? I could almost say no. But it's such a
I could say no for any game.
Yeah, exactly.
No for any game.
That's true. That is true.
But like I think that like adding like saying like music plus action draft, has that ever been made before? Possibly not. So it is expanding the like playing sphere in some way. And NIM plus like cards is something that probably is a fully unique concept to this.
Exactly. And that's why Final Strike does so well. Is that like it addresses a lot of things that I have issues with, like deck builders, is like player interaction / agency, and the fact that Final Strike, like, your core central way to get points is the center of the arena that everyone is looking at and playing weapons towards, and so on and so forth. And that's such a good feel good moment to watch the game end and slowly act by act.
Yeah. The core mechanic is hungry hippos. Everybody knows that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Oh my god. Sorry, in my head I had a vision of like people mashing hungry hippos, but like,
yeah. Let's retheme the game.
That's
It's
great,
like
yeah.
the Hungry Hungry Hippos deck builder.
Yeah, that's a great game. If we can get that IP, hit us up, Mattel or Hasbro. Let us know.
Yes. Okay. Cool. Peter, how about you? Any games that you have worked on that you felt needed to exist? I think it's harder going in a way because you have extra requirements that you placed on yourself. But I think that what you make up for that is you have some drive. Like if it's a game that you feel like it needs to exist for some reason, you will push a lot harder even though it's more difficult.
That's correct. I've been toying, and you've worked on a game jam with me. I've been toying with this idea of a game that is very has a lot of high emotional turmoil, and just presses the envelope of like somebody's past, present, future, to make it so like does the evil that somebody's done in the past negate the good that they're doing right now, or the good that they are going to do in the future? Like, how do you judge somebody based on their actions? And they're both their past, present, and future actions, and that's just like a thing because like I don't know to reveal to the audience, like everyone knows Peter Yang in like Minnesota as a really nice guy, but I've done some shitty stuff, and like everyone is like, "Oh, Peter, you're such a nice person." I'm like, "Yes, I have always been a good person, but that doesn't mean I haven't done bad things in my life, and that doesn't mean I'm not going to do great things in the future." And that it says a lot of people like for what people have done right now. Like everyone is currently acting towards, and this is getting really heavy, I know, but that's the point of the game. That's the point of this game I want to make. This game addresses this hard to answer conversation piece, because between us, we've had mutual friends that have had like bad things come out into the light, and then like people just immediately start treating them differently. But like actively right now, they are a good person working towards greater goals and the good and the better of like the community around them. But does that mitigate? Does the good that they do now mitigate the bad they did in the past? And I'm like, there's no answer. No one has an immediate answer for these questions, and it's not something that it's like very easy to talk about with people. So I feel like making a game that like has like you are the hero of the game, unquestionably. But as you play the game, you find out the dark things that you as the hero have done in your past, and that makes you feel so uncomfortable as your character. You're like, oh, I'm the hero. I'm going to save the world, and people know I'm going to save the world. And like the big twist reveal for people who are like listening to this podcast years down the road, when I make this game, is going to find out like this person has to confront the person that they hurt, and the person that they hurt says, "Thank you for saving the world, but I do not forgive you." And that is like the crux, being like, "Oh my god, no matter how good, the greatest good, you save the world from destruction. This person does not owe you an apology. Does not owe you forgiveness for the bad thing you did to hurt them. That doesn't matter. The good you did now does not forgive the bad you've done in the past." And I'm like, is that enough? It's like, and that's the question. That's the premise of that game. Like, it doesn't, and this game doesn't like need to exist, but I feel so strongly about like addressing this topic because it's a hard conversation to have, and I think it's worth making.
Yeah, I think a lot of games do have that little hero's journey, or that that kind of element to it, but not if you want to make it like focused on that, because I've been watching a couple of games recently, like, oh yeah, that's kind of, I mean, I'm gonna just throw out God of War. Like I've seen God of War, and the rebranding of God of War is like, that's such a great rebranding for him, because the previous game he's just killing everybody and like relentless, but now spoilers, he has a son and all these things. And he's also kind of like spotting that gotta do better versus that. But that's like it's a through line through the whole game, but you're still a God of War killing people, and like you're doing it's that very action heavy, and maybe people are focused on that. It's a great story as well, but I think as like you were saying, that maybe that isn't the central focus of the game, where it's still like at the end of the day a slash them, hack them up, beat them up, destroying enemies, doing things, do cool stuff. But I think for you, you're saying you want to kind of focus this kind of through line of your actions and whatnots for this character.
Yeah,
for your game.
Exactly. Like Kratos. So slight spoilers for those who have not played God of War 2, the Ragnarok, God of War Ragnarok. Like he addresses that a little bit to say like, oh, I wasn't always a sensible dad. I was a ruthless God of War person in my past, young son, and Like they talk about that a little bit, but that's not the core central part of the game. The
Right.
core part of the game is still hack slash fight the bad guys because we're the good guys. And I really want in my game for the player to question: is the person that they're playing an actual hero? Yeah.
Yeah.
Question: you guys have played Disco Elysium, correct?
Oh my goodness. I
That
haven't
is
personally played
the
it, but I've
closest
seen
thing I
it.
can think of to what you're talking about.
Oh,
Where where it's like you're sort of like evaluating the like I don't know like is the main character a good person for the whole game?
Yes, that is close. I think there's more things I want to like attribute with.
Yeah.
Oof. Yeah. So like to build further on this game that doesn't exist yet. Imagine Chrono Trigger where they're the Seven Sins. Yeah.
Where who is?
The Chrono Trigger, like where all the characters, your cast and crew, all people are the Seven Sins. Every one of them is somebody who's done something so terrible that they're now currently walking this path of like atonement. So like you have somebody who is Wrath, and they were an incredible war tactician, and you find out over the course of the game, like okay, let's say Frog from Chrono Trigger. Very smart guy. He's a hero right now. He's helped save you, so on and so forth. You find out that his backstory is that his war brilliance was a part of like a genocide. Is Frog a good person still? Like that's a thing, and that's like and you play as Frog, he's a part of your party, and you go and you use his abilities. And he's like, yeah, Frog is awesome. He does cross slash with Chrono, and you're like,
Yeah.
He was a part of this really bad thing.
Yeah, but that cross slash is pretty cool.
That
though.
It's
slash
sick.
is really dope.
Like,
Come
yeah,
on now.
do
You
you
see the
remember-
cinematics? Come on.
Can you
I think
remember
that
the
deserves
first
a
time
few
you said
thousand
cross slash?
kills. Come on.
I'm just saying. But like that like yes, we joke about this now, but like that's what this game will really address. It'd be like you do like Frog's Masamune reclaims his sword to fight Magus, right? And you find out that Magus is the last survivor of this race, and Frog is the reason why all of his people are dead. Is Magus the good person, or is Frog the good person? There. See,
This is I see that's really difficult because like for me, it's kind of weird because when you put the word video game, I could just imagine like a bar, a good and like green is good, red is bad, and Frog has -1 million because of his crazy war thing, but plus 1,000,001 because he wants to save the world. Does that saving the world?
Does saving the world give him +1,000,000 good? No.
Yeah, million.
I don't know.
I don't know. Like, what are those values? I guess again, it's difficult because, like I said, it's very subjective and things like that. But turning into a video game wise, that's kind of like you see those numbers, or are you like trying to? I'm just trying to imagine and attribute values to things. Like +1 or this, plus -1 for this.
You can't gamify that kind of stuff though. That's a tough one. Like you can't, like you said, a genocide is a -1,000,000 bad points, but does saving a world equal 1,000,000 good points?
1,000,000 plus 1.
1,000,000 plus 1 is
over
it?
the edge. So he is a good person.
Yeah, and I'm like, do you just quantify that? And if you quantify that, is that a good way to let players judge a character? And I don't think that is. I think it's up to the players to like decide for themselves. And the way I would address this is that like, there's definitely no good bad meter in what I ideally see in this game. But to answer your question, like, to not get super far off topics, that this is a game I want to exist because I know for just my personal experience that this is a hard topic for people to confront, and to have a game based around this mechanic of like the player having to like judge a character for their good and bad based on the things that they've done in the past, based on the things they're doing right now to actively help you save the world. That is a good topic. That's a good like starting point for people to talk about like the people in their lives and the people around us. So
for sure, I'm sure we could do like a full episode on that. Like I kind of feel like one of the reasons why Disco was so good at that was that basically the whole game's mechanics was all about deciding what you feel about certain things,
Yeah.
and also discovering things. And like it didn't have like the distraction of like you thinking about how things will affect your gameplay stats nearly as much as like a God of War game.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. The stats can talk to you.
Yeah.
They're
Let's
real.
talk to you. Holy shit.
It's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good. I'm looking forward to my second run. I'm gonna be a huge nerd. It'll be great.
Okay.
All right. So speaking of mechanics, we have
Yes,
like
yes.
this other side of things today, which
Yes.
was the topic that we had slated for number 2, which was do games need roguelike mechanics? I'm gonna say that of course no, I don't think that they do. I think that the roguelike mechanics are essentially a tool that people can use to add additional replay value to a game. Now, I personally think that this can be used and abused. I think that like there's a game right now that our good friend Patrick Leader has like been advocating for, which is called Against the Storm. Friggin' love that game. It's so good. It's great. But and I think that like many roguelike games, it feels kind of genius because it takes something that has existed for a long time. It's very much like the game Settlers, but it's also like you could think about like a city builder like SimCity. But instead of being like a 12-hour experience, it's like a 45-minute to 1-hour experience, but a whole bunch of those. And each of them has like a slightly different learning curve because in each scenario you have different buildings and different perks available to you. So your strategy will differ from game to game. What this does is it makes it so it has a lot more replay value because you're slowly progressing along a curve where it gets more difficult, and it makes it more addictive because you get more like of this little variance each time. So you could play the game 100 times and see like 100 different ways for it to pan out. It is a way to multiply the replay value very cheaply for new studios because it is sort of like when people discovered that like certain types of mechanics in slot machines made people sit in front of them for many hours.
I was going to say
a very
Yeah.
easy way to sort of multiply how long people will spend playing your game. I would say that when I talk to people who are starting out, who have like a good solid mechanic, but they're looking for a way to turn it into a game worthy of somebody's purchase, I feel like the easy way out is not to make a like 10-hour fully scripted RPG that guides them along an emotional journey, but it's to adjust the mechanics a little bit so that you can pad it out with a lot of these like variant experiences to add more variance for less work on the dev side. I happen to think that some of these games are very beautiful. I like the difficulty curve of many of them, but I also think that it's primarily a tool for people to pad out the replayability.
I agree with this completely. My problem is this: like, this is a tool that's so frequently used that it's almost like the hammer and nail, and that's my problem with roguelikes as of late. And I say this lovingly because you need a hammer to hammer a nail, and that's not a bad thing by all means. But I'm like,
Yes.
I look at games like Cult of the Lamb, which I'm so glad is not a roguelike. Like Cult of the Lamb's
Come on, it is very similar to Hades.
Yeah. But okay. So
It's actually most similar to ActRaiser.
yeah,
but-
exactly. It's ActRaiser, and ActRaiser is not a roguelike.
Oh, good.
That's a
You're
sim.
right, you're right.
ActRaiser is like a SimCity plus like RPG. I don't know, action side scroller.
Correct. Yeah, Cult of the Lamb is very similar to ActRaiser. However, the each run is like a sort of a simplified Hades.
Yes, and that,
Right.
but like that's the thing is like so Cult of the Lamb could have been super roguelike. It could have been like absolute. It could have been absolute Hades. It could have been absolute Binding of Isaac, if you can imagine
Yeah.
that.
Mhm.
And I'm glad it didn't go that far. Like I'm just glad like it steered away off course slightly, in that like I don't know if the world needs another Binding of Isaac kind of style game. Like a shmup that's a roguelike shmup. I don't know if we're ready for this kind of thing, because if you made that kind of game, it would basically like, oh, it's like Binding of Isaac, but not as good. XYZ.
Look, here's the thing. I'm gonna say I'm part of the problem, guys. I eat these roguelikes like I eat them up like chips.
No.
I don't know why. It's just so snacky. Again, I don't know if there's some psychology. You know,
Oh.
I don't think I'm that self-aware to know this, but if I could just take you like a 30-second rant is,
Yeah.
when you play the game and you lose within the first minute, you can't stop. You're
No.
gonna play another run.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You keep going until you play a game, you lose for 5 minutes. No, you're gonna keep going. You take another bite of the chip. You keep going until you get an hour, and then
eat
you quit.
another chip.
Yeah, you keep going until you get an hour, and dare not press play again after the hour. Because if you lose 1 minute in after an hour run, you're gonna keep going back because you weren't satisfied with that 1 minute run. I mean, I don't know what it is. It's just I love roguelike mechanics, and I feel like it's kind of been. I feel like at a point there was a big trend, but then now it's kind of like the new thing where it's like it kind of has to have these mechanics because it helps supplement a good gameplay system and a gameplay loop is what they're trying to work for. And it's kind of hard because why break something that doesn't need to be fixed? And I think a lot of the gamers and trying to not show any shade to any indie developers, but that's kind of like a lot of the new indie games or whatnot. Not a lot of them, but just the ones that I'm interested in, let's say, are roguelike mechanics, cars, deck building, or whatever type of collection set, you create. Because you play it, you get something at the end of the day that you can play for the next run, and it's just this whole loop that's just kind of like a slot machine, if anything.
Yeah.
Well, I gotta say, like, I'm glad that you said that, because I think that that there is a lot of good to them. Like, I think that there's a couple things that people very much like in games, which is variance in terms of like how like strong or weak you are, and then also like what things you're building around. I mean, one of the things that drives people crazy, I think, is like old example, but in like StarCraft 2 Wings of Liberty, people complained a lot that the only unit that you needed to make was the Marine to get through the campaign, and people would have loved it if there was some like, I don't know, like relics from Slay the Spire or something where like your Banshees do like even more damage in this particular level.
Good.
Yeah.
People love things that make them rethink a situation, and I think that's what I love about roguelikes the most, which is that like you're constantly like, you can't just rely on sort of crystallized information. You sort of have to rethink things again and again, depending on the current situation. Like the person who has the highest win rate in Slay the Spire right now has like 2-hour-long runs because he's constantly in new situations he hasn't been in before, even though he's played the game for like 4,000 hours.
Right.
So there is a lot of virtue in the system, but I do think that there are certainly signs of people adding it to games because it is sort of like the obligate thing to do.
Yes.
And sometimes I can feel like, oh, these people put in roguelike mechanics because it's a multiplier rather than out of any sort of love for it.
Yeah, like, okay, so like, let's talk, what is it? Haunted Chocolatier. Stardew Valley's makers next to the game, right?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Did they put out more information? I haven't seen any.
They have not. But let me just let me hit you with something. What if that game's a roguelike? Would you play that? Would you play Stardew Valley roguelike?
Stardew Valley is a roguelike.
It is.
So, hold on. Is Stardew?
No,
no.
I'm being dumb.
Yeah, okay.
No.
You made me question. You made me question.
You got a good point. No,
it has some roguelike elements for sure.
It does.
Yeah.
In that each day is kind of like a run. And the dungeon is kind of like a run too.
Yeah.
Or like the mine. But anyway, like if it's a roguelike, you know what? I am actually gonna plant my flag here and say I think it probably will. It'll probably have quite a bit more roguelike elements than Stardew Valley.
Oh,
and yeah,
no.
I'm super down for it. It's just like a really a formula that really works. I think that where it's bad, in my opinion, is A, if you're playing too many video games in the first place, or B, if you are not enjoying the time that you spend there.
Okay, that's a good point. That's the strongest argument for roguelike. Is that if you enjoy your time there, that is 100% why. And I'm just saying, I love roguelike, by the way. I play Path of Exile, which is like a different run every time. I also play like Dead Cells. God, I love Dead Cells so much.
Okay, so what is it? Because like I think Peter, I'm gonna say I suspect that you are overall a person who's like, I don't know, like you want like novel, like new artistic things. You want to be on the frontier a little bit more than I do. Would you say that that's fair?
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm not that okay. None of them I'm always excited to play those games because of like,
Yeah.
God, there are a lot of like indie titles that I wanted to like check out, like else not, or I forgot what the name of it. It's like this archaic storytelling game, like if else or else heartbreak. I think is something along those lines. But
Else Heartbreak. Okay.
yeah, but it's like it tells a cool indie story in like a novel way, and I didn't play it. I just watched the videos and I enjoyed the story and I enjoyed what they were going for. But you're right in that I will also buy Haunted Chocolatier if it's a roguelike, just so that I could wrap my mind around what a farm sim roguelike would be.
Oh, dude, it would be
man.
so good.
All right.
Oh man.
It can't fail. It's so good. I mean,
fail.
I mean, for me, I haven't played Stardew Valley, but I mean, I played Harvest Moon, and if you told me
Yes.
Harvest Moon every day is a new event that's different, I would be like, is that a real like? Lane, your question this. Now I'm being like questioned my whole life. Like, what's a roguelike now? Like, what are these elements? It's randomly generated events that happen throughout the day. Maybe you could plan them, but oh man, it's again. It just feels like it's gonna be the thing like people are gonna be used because it's snappy and snacky, and it kind of has that get the system for a good replayability, which players want. You know, let's say they want the bang for their buck, right? If they're gonna pay $60 for a game, can they reasonably, you know, say $60 for the game? If I put in 4,000 hours, I mean, I'm sold, right? That's a lot of people like that. That's a lot of game for $60.
Yeah, it is
Let me ask you folks. Do you have like any different opinion on like let's say difficulty unlocks? Because this is something that like Slay the Spire, Monster Train, Binding of Isaac, like all these games have it, and you could, I think you could just as easily say that's a obligate thing as well that many games do, and it has a very similar function. It keeps people playing longer. Arguably, it lowers the barrier to entry, but it keeps it makes the like more experienced people have a better time. Do you have any like? So to me, conceptually, it's very similar to a roguelike. Do you have any like different thoughts about that? Like, what makes them different in your eyes?
When you talk about unlocks, are you meaning like unlocking certain options when a player reaches certain points?
Yeah,
like when you beat a difficulty,
Okay.
you unlock the next difficulty.
Oh, I see. I think having a difficulty setting, let's say, or unlocking new difficulty, I think that's just for the hardcore players who really enjoy the game and want to master it. And I think that's a different thing versus roguelike. I guess they kind of bleed into each other, but having a mastery over a game, being able to like never not get hit on the play, because if you get hit, you die, like one hit death or something like that. Kind of just gives the player more game, and I guess that's more replayability, but not necessarily adding roguelike mechanic to it.
I'm on the counterpoint, being like a lot of people include those things because that is like you said about how a slot machine, adding higher difficulties makes it so that the person wants to continue to play that game, with like I'm not gonna call it shallow depth, but just like it allows like Lane said, it allows the developer to prolong how long that person is playing that game, just because like, oh, you completed this at Ascension 10, guess what, there were 10 more Ascensions beyond this that you weren't ready for ahead of time, but now you can try these things. And I'm like, okay, so you're saying that I will eventually beat Ascension 20 if I play the game long enough, understand the mechanics, and then get a lucky enough run to do it. And I'm just like, that's that's not necessarily a bad thing for robots. For me, that's just like you said, a slot machine, or like the person be like, oh, if you play this game long enough, you'll hit the jackpot. What is it?
All right.
The little mini game for this slot machine, and you just gotta play long enough until you do it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I certainly had to play and like hit the slot machine to get Ascension 20 with defect because I do not understand that character.
Oh no, that character is
Lowest
so
win
weird.
rate by far among the good players in that game.
Yeah.
But anyway, like I one thing that I think is kind of neat about putting these two things together. One is like the roguelike element with you have permadeath. You also have like variance in terms of stuff you get, and you also have some amount of choices on your build. And then this escalating difficulty. The thing is, like, what I think is a neat interaction between these things is that you start with at the low difficulties with a very large possibility space of different things that work, and then as you go up the difficulty, that like possibility space starts closing in very like interesting ways. And so you get to the point where by the time you get to the top, you essentially have to like play more or less perfectly in order to get through. And I think that like that for a game that you really love can be really good. What I don't like about this is that like what I've noticed is like I didn't particularly care for the mechanics in Monster Train, but I still got to like pack 25 just because it was a progression meter. I could feel it. Like I was gonna keep going. And I honestly kind of regret my time spent with that game because I don't enjoy it nearly as much as some of these other ones.
Yeah, it kind of brings up to the idea of like, you know, achievements or unlocking things where are your players really I mean, there are a lot of players who are just motivated, you know, to try to get 100, you know, quote unquote 100% in the game, you know. That is the holy grail for a lot of players who just like want to get everything. And I guess that does show like the mastery of a game per se, but for roguelikes, maybe you just get a really lucky run and you just you know, you 100% by getting the best combination. And you know, are you done with that game afterwards? You know, after completing, you've seen what the game has to offer. You've got all the options. Like putting it down after you've completed 100%. Are you guys? This is a good question. Are you guys like after you're 100% a game? Are you kind of like, I'm done with this game, maybe I can move on to mastering another game, or do you still kind of like dabble it? If it has the roguelike tendencies, I'm sure people are more inclined to kind of dabble it into it because it's more of that surprise factor. But for example, God of War or like any other storyline game, but RPG game, you play it, you got the story, it's 56 hours or whatever, you put it down, like I think I'm good. Like you watch the movie, let's say, like are you the kind to kind of watch that movie again, or or play that 6 hours, or are you kind of like, I got it, moving on?
Good question. I have almost never rewatched a movie, and like playing an RPG again. That seems torturous. I have played Chrono Trigger twice. I don't think I've played any other RPG twice. How about you guys?
Right.
Oh, I went to play through Saga Frontier Remake. The re-release.
Let's go.
Yeah, that game is great. All the quality of life filters that they made is phenomenal, but the new endgame content was absurdly hard to the point of where I will not. I've given up on getting 100% again. But like,
I love it when they add that stuff.
It did, but like, it was phenomenally hard, and I enjoyed attempting it. So I don't think that's time wasted.
But I want Final Fantasy VII Remake with the original fighting mechanics and give me like six more weapons. More weapons on the tier of Emerald Weapon. Let's go.
Oh my God. Okay, hold on. Back up. 6 more Emerald Weapons sounds great. I take that back. That sounds like fun. Yeah. I would try that.
The challenges.
Yeah, the challenge is there. Yeah. But like, I love what
the original combat mechanics are so much better than the remake.
No, I love the remake's combat mechanic. Okay. This is a new we're opening up a new topic.
Okay, like divide the enemy's hit points by 10 and divide the player's hit points by 2, and you'll arrive at a good game.
Oh, okay, yeah, I'll say that. I'd agree. Okay, so I beat Final Fantasy. Oh no, I didn't beat. I take that back. I played through and I gave up I gave up toward the end for hard mode, which was just the normal mode, but a lot longer and more unfair because the boss's health were just like ×4.
Oh, it's so long.
But you play that game on like normal, easy, which is I feel like is their intended audience, and your boss fights are like snappy, delicious. Like it's very fast and easy, but I think that's like you still have to understand the mechanics to fully like get the break and do the bonus damage and so on and so forth, and that's what makes them like feel really good. But then I played it on hard, like New Game Plus hard, and I was like, this is nonsense. I'm not spending an hour just to fight this boss because I haven't gone through fully maxed out my stuff and grinded out to do that. I was like, no, not doing that. That's what I have with Saga Frontier. the super hard endgame bosses, like require you to
Yeah.
max out all your stats. And I'm like, no,
No.
I'm not doing that.
I gotta say, comparing the two, like the extra replayability from like a hard mode that like multiplies the enemy health. I mean, obviously this is really low hanging fruit,
Yeah.
but I sort of feel like the like indie roguelike experience to me is like way more fun than like going up a difficulty and just taking 1.5 times as long to kill the bosses.
Oh yeah, that's a very different game. Like a roguelike, like Slay the Spire, where the odds are literally stacked against you. It's a very different experience because you are building up to that versus like Final Fantasy being like, oh, did you level up your character enough before coming into this fight? Yes or no?
Oh yeah.
That's a very different feeling. That's a very different like it's like a test of performance versus a test of like how what is it? Like those tests back in high school where you could bring in like you had unlimited notes.
Yeah.
Oh man.
And so, did you take the time to write down every single thing on that one? You are allowed one post-it or one 3x5 note card. You know, like do you remember those tests?
Yes.
Yeah. It's like, did you take the time to write down every single thing in blue ink and red ink, and then bring 3D glasses so you could see both sides of the notes?
Oh my god.
Yeah. Like, did you do that? Because that's like Final Fantasy VII Remake hard mode. Like, did you take the time to grind out everything? Versus like this is an open note test, and you only have 20 minutes though. So
man.
all of a sudden you're like,
great.
holy shit, I have all the notes I need, but I only have 20 minutes to take the test. Like that, and like the test is 100 questions. there you go.
Yeah.
That's Ascension 20. That's
Ascension 20 is you don't have any notes and you have to derive everything from like first principles in the physics exam.
I think Ascension 20 is you have all the notes. You have everything. You know what's potentially going to happen.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. And yeah, like honestly, like I do see like when people get up to like 18 wins in a row and they're pushing for the 19th win, then the spreadsheets come out. And yes. All the moves of all the bosses go into the spreadsheet. Yep.
Yeah. Like you get like Peter, I love the metaphor, but there is a third option in roguelike, which I think can not only be done in roguelikes, but lends itself to this happen. You cheat.
Yeah.
You cheat,
meaning you get the combination at a low level, and that just ramps you up on the game, and you're just super powered, and then you're good. Like you get the combination at a level 1.
Yeah.
You get the level 1 weapon, super weapon. You got the rare drop. And roguelike, I feel like that's what makes it fun, because like it feels like you're cheating when you get the ultimate deck or the ultimate set of items or artifacts, and you're just like, I'm gonna steamroll it now.
Yes.
I'm gonna feel great. So
but
I do like the difficulty curve.
That's lucky.
This is a fantastic point. Like I feel like there's like that genre. It's so nice because what it does is it kind of like unites people. It definitely, in my opinion, opens the game up to being accessible to more people, because people don't like playing games that they cannot win. And like I have had a lot of conversations about Slay the Spire. Me as an addict who has played like all the characters all the way up, with people who are like, I don't know, struggling on Ascension like 2 or 3. But it can still be a good conversation because they can know what all the cards are, because they were motivated to play because of the chance that they could get a good combination and get up. And then when they do have the pieces come together, it feels really good and they get to move up. So and that's not a thing that could happen in every genre.
Right. And I think that's why that's also a great, to that point. Does that need to exist? It's a really strong point for it to like really lane players feel so powerful. And, at the end of the day, players want to feel powerful. If I have open notes, like that's great. But let me just cheat.
Yeah. Okay. I have
do that for a bit.
I had a reverse experience on this that I actually really hated. For Rogue Legacy.
Okay.
Rogue Legacy. One of the end all, like the first. The first of roguelikes.
Whoa!
In which
I disavow any roguelike game where you get more powerful between runs. I think you should always get less powerful between runs.
Okay, I think that's fair. That's fair. But that's a good point, because that's what I felt. At some point, I hit I was having trouble like beating that game, right? And then I finally hit like a threshold where I lucked into like the perfect like one hit, like 25% lifesteal kind of thing nonsense. I was like, okay, perfect, this is it. So I beat that run, and then I continually snowballed to like continue to beat the next runs, and I beat the end game of that. I beat like the final boss of that game, right? And you got that credit.
Yeah.
And I was like, Oh, I just had to play long enough to get to that point where I was so strong that it didn't matter what next characters I was getting, I was just going to win because of like my keep was strong enough to make it work. And I was like, and that like felt like very underwhelming, because I was like, oh, because Patrick, you were right, like I hit the lucky cheat button, but like I just had to play long enough in order to get access to it.
I think.
Oh,
yeah,
sorry,
I think,
go ahead.
oh, sorry, yeah. Well, I wanted to mention that I think to equate that to an RPG is like it's being level 99 and 99 stats, and you just kind of just keep pressing the attack, and you just win. Like you spend in the time, Rogue Legacy, right? Like you get some small bonuses overall. If you put in more time into it, you'll get eventually you'll unlock all the bonuses, right?
Yeah.
And then that's technically like you're leveling up between the runs. If you could create to an RPG, we're like, oh, I just need to be a higher level enough for me to just, you put in the time and you win eventually. That's kind of how I feel like that too.
Yeah, like it's been interesting because like the Rogue Legacy is one where you get more and more powerful over time, and I've always felt like with that one, it's obviously like made in this way where it's almost something that feels like an idle game or something, like that kind of economy sort of thing, where like if it's imbalanced, you start being like freed from reality and drifting around in outer space. And because that economy is a little bit busted towards the end, I totally experienced exactly what you're talking about, where you feel like, oh, this acceleration is sort of like the train has left the tracks and now it's no longer a functioning game, it's just an experience. So I definitely had that. Like my preference is for these ones like Slay the Spire, like Monster Train. Even though the core mechanics of that game I didn't love, I like the roguelike stuff in it. I like the difficulty progression where you get like after each victory you go on to play it again, but it's harder now. But I haven't noticed, and you guys probably have too, that there is a bunch of games out there now that sort of buff and nerf you. They kind of burf you between each one. Where like I like Rogue Book does this, Hades does this, Against the Storm does this, where you have one mechanic that's making you stronger and stronger over time, but you have a sometimes optional, sometimes not mechanic where it also makes life more difficult for you, like the pact thing in Hades. And I think that's interesting, where you can get that like progression itch that a lot of people have, and you're also trying to satisfy the players who like that ramping up of difficulty. So I think that's an interesting compromise.
Definitely. God, Patrick, I never talked to you about Sunless Sea. Patrick, did I?
Sunless Sea?
Yeah, no. Sunless Sea was a phenomenal roguelike game in which where you like died, like you ran like a family line where like you lived in a world where like you lived in a Cthulhu-esque world where sunlight is a currency, and that's crazy, right? It's really sweet. Like, I love the premise, and I slept like 100 hours into that game. It was phenomenal, but I hit because there's only so many things that can carry over between generations, if you will, which are like each run. Whenever you die, your inheritor gets a couple like attributes and bonuses. But the biggest thing that the hurdle that you come across in that game is that they can inherit your boat, and your boat starts off piddly. But then you make one run where you earn enough money to buy the next boat, and you're like, oh, okay, now the inheritor can inherit this next boat, and they're all of a sudden like there are immediate pathways of what they could do off the beginning of the game. It just opens up, and that at that point where you get like the same thing with Rogue Legacy is like as soon as I got to that boat, like the next boat upgrade, I just got the next one and the next one. And then I stopped playing the game because at this point I was like, oh, the next thing for me to explore is like all these characters, side quests and like contents and so forth. But I'm taking the super strong boat just to go explore the content, and that's a very different roguelike experience. Whereas like Hades is like, are you trying to do the builds, or are you trying to figure out what's the story arcs for each of the gods, or the funny interactions in common are you trying to hear all their dialogue? But at some point, like, you become so good at Hades that do you keep playing it? Why would you continue playing Hades? Kind of thing.
That is an excellent question. Why would anyone do that? What is this game called? Call of the Sea?
Oh, Sunless Sea. Sunless Sea.
Sunless Sea.
Sunless Sea.
Okay.
They released their sequel.
Sunless Sea. Yeah.
Something. Yes. It's like Seamless Skies or something like that. But I never played the sequel. But Sunless Sea was a phenomenal game. And it took me like 50 hours to get to like at that breaking point. But then after I got to that breaking point, I poured another 50 hours, and it just became like very like overwhelmingly strong in terms like of a character build. And then I stopped playing because I was like, okay, the last thing I need to do in this game is to explore all the funny character interactions between like the different ports, bringing like I don't remember what, like there was this moment in the game I was like, I died, and I was like, okay, I want to do that exact same thing again, and I was like, oh, I'm hitting the point where I'm just trying to explore this exact like storyline. Yeah, and I was just like, that's not worth my time. I don't know why I said that to that game. Actually, hold on, let me open up Steam right now. Let me see. Let me see how many hours I played that game. So let's see. 92.8 hours. 100 hours. Yeah, and I got 11 achievements. I have 30 left over. Oh gosh. Okay, let me see. View global achievements. This was 2016. Damn, I haven't played this game in a long time.
Wow, I thought this guy played video games.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so
all right, question for you folks.
Ahead.
When you play a roguelike game, how different, how much variety do you want from run to run? How like invalid do you want the strategies that you pursued in the last run to be in this run?
Man, I think anything goes for me. I feel like if I get lucky, I'm gonna feel so lucky. I'm gonna get that run. But I think to Peter's point is it a time investment game versus the enjoyment?
True.
Because a lot of, like you said, like again with Rogue and Sunny Sea, it's like if you just put in the time, like an idle game, you just the more hours you put in, you're eventually gonna beat it. Like it's not necessarily the difficulty of the game. It's just you have a curve of, if I put more time into it, I'll inherit better things. I'll slowly increment my stats up, like an RPG. But to Hades' point, like, gaining a buff and getting a nerf, like getting the birth, we're gonna coin that. The birth is kind of my ultimate, like, ideal situation where, okay, I have a super this, but I have bad that, and then making that decision to like, oh, if I got lucky in this run, I still have to mitigate my bad nerfs for this run, and I think there's a fine balance of that. It's like if it's super different each run, I think that's great, but if they give me that all in the beginning, probably not. And I think that's why they have the small unlockables. Oh, you've cleared floor level 5, so you unlock the daggers now. This small thing, and that's kind of the ramping of the unlocking system for that. Also helps mitigate the crazy wackiness. But once you reach level 99, you have locked all the chaos unlockables, and then the next run, anything goes at that point for me.
Oh,
so, yeah.
True. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, super new people aren't gonna want to deal with the same level of variance.
Yeah.
They're gonna want to play somewhat similar character to what they played last time and hope that it kind of works, gets them a little further in those early runs. Yeah. Like this is my main, like the two things I didn't like about Hades is, number one, I'm so old that I don't like jamming like full heart rate on a gamepad for a full hour, which is so that the runs of that game are a smidge long for me for the intensity. Particularly like maybe playing early access was a mistake, because I still have a strong memory of when the gun literally had no cooldown and you were rewarded for just like constricted blood vessel like pounding on the controller like as fast as you can.
Oh my god! Okay.
Jeez. Oh, great.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Risking carpal tunnel all for the game, but like the actual only thing that I dislike about that game these days, I don't dislike it. It's just like it's a little uncomfortable for me to play. The other thing is that I kind of feel like the variance is not quite enough. There's like a couple of cool like dual god bonus synergy packages that really shift what you're doing, but most moves are, I'm gonna take this move that you already have and I'm gonna make it do like 20% more damage, and there's a bit too much of that for me in that particular game. I kind of wish there were more things like the like corruption in Slay the Spire, where like all of a sudden, oh, you're playing a different game, welcome, here's your ticket to Crazy Land.
Here's your ticket to Crazy Land. That's accurate. Oh man, I think I never played Hades, for the record. I never played it. I watched a lot of videos on it though, which is like how I live vicariously through like because like this is not there's not enough time to play everything. I played Path of Exile while watching a Hades stream, and I was just like, yeah, I'm getting the exact same experience, but for whatever reason, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it differently through Path of Exile. I'm like, oh yeah, like I'm doing a new build, a new character in this world.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I know Hades is a kook. I'm not denying this.
Oh yeah.
But I saw it and I was like, and I said this to myself quietly while everyone else was giving it like 10 out of 10s, and I was like, this is like it's like people are learning about like Slay the Spire and then like looking at Diablo through Path of Exile, Diablo 2, and like if you play Diablo 2, you know how to make a build crazy, and if you learn like the mastery of like an action RPG, and then Hades looked at Diablo 2 and says like, I'm gonna turn you into a roguelike, and then let players just pick it up, and like great voice acting, wonderful aesthetics, incredible music, so many like good aspects to make it a fantastic game.
Right.
But I looked at it and I was just like, I don't know. I give it an 8. And I know the world's gonna flame me for that.
Hot take.
Hot take. Like okay, like tell me, like, did you play Hades? Right? You played Hades.
I haven't played Hades, but
No?
for me that game is, I think like you said, like the aesthetics of it, the artwork, the relationships, the little kind of story through for each characters. I watched the playthrough as well, and for me, it is just a action kind of hack and slash dungeon crawling roguelike. And I've seen what they can do. I've seen what he can do. I've seen all the upgrades, and like to Lane's point, like it's just a number increase, small things. I'd rather prefer like crazier things and modifiers than a numbers game, which is big number is good. That's kind of like how I feel, but it is. I think I would give it like a 9. Hot take. It's a 9 out of 10.
Because like, if you could like convince me of like the things Hades innovated on.
Oh, like it having really large lighting effects when you do a move. There we go. Innovation in readability. Yeah. It's a very understandable UI because it's like everything is just like sort of leaps out at you when it's important. Like it's very well designed. I don't think that game is okay. Maybe the most innovative thing that it has going for it is the idea of attaching story progression to roguelikes.
Yes, that's pretty good.
I can't say that I had seen that before then. I know that there have been some games that have done that, like outside of there, but I don't think that there have been ones that have done it to that same degree.
I agree there.
Yeah. In terms of the gameplay, yeah, I mean, unfortunately, from a purely mechanical point of view, I sort of see that game as being a little bit less interesting than Binding of Isaac, just because of how wild the modifiers are.
Yeah.
Yes, I love Binding of Isaac by a lot.
But yeah, folks, I gotta say, unfortunately, I need to bail. No. I know that we are past our expected time here by about 20 minutes, but I gotta go. So hopefully I can take it out here.
Oh, that is fine. I think we can call it. We can call it an episode, folks. Thank you so much for checking out the Pebbled Path. We will continue to make more postings and so on and so forth. Of course, you can follow Patrick, our guest. He doesn't have a Twitter, but the music that you've been listening in the background is at soundcloud.com/Patrick Patak, Pattaq. So go check him out if you enjoy the music. Final Strike, of course, is being worked on by Lane and myself. You can find us on our GameFound page, Final Strike, or just give us a Google search, Final Strike board game, and you'll find our GameFound fan page. So thank you so much for your time. Have a great rest of your day, and we will see you the next time we walk down the Pebbled Path.
Yeah, see you, folks.
Bye.